Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. Before I start this episode, I want to take a moment to just talk to you about the live virtual training that I now offer. Topics on situational awareness, high-risk decision-making, critical thinking, and resilient problem solving. How to train members to be successful in high-risk situations. This training is live via the internet. Imagine that. I come to your department and train your members live on an internet connection, questions and answers, the whole 9 yards. You know, you don't have to have strong situational awareness to make a good decision. In fact, you can have terrible situational awareness and still make a great decision. We call that luck. I'd like to help you program out some of the luck. These are really important skills to have. If you want to improve the safety of yourself or your members or your team, check out the live virtual training. Visit samatters.com and click on any of the orange boxes on the homepage of SA Matters. If you want to talk to me live about this, if you have any questions, just click on the Contact Us tab at the top of the homepage and I'll give you a call. Okay, that's enough of the pre-show stuff. Roll that podcast intro. Today's episode is brought to you by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles for departments throughout the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. Check them out at midwestfire.com.
Hey, it's Fire Chief Jerry Strike from the Andover Fire Department in Minnesota, and you're listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Richard Gasaway. His mission is to help us see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes.
Welcome to episode 199 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio and now video show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. You know, I've been sharing this message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making in live program events now for 13 years and have trained just over 62,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, and so many more. This message really is for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival, and I'm here to share a message of hope and a message of inspiration to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you from Summit Fire Authority in Frisco, Colorado, where I'm in town to deliver a program for first responders throughout the region. Thank you to Tyson Houston for your efforts to bring this important message to the region. We had a great turnout today and incredible experiences that were shared by all the participants. One of the questions I get asked a lot by readers and listeners of this blog and podcast is, when are you coming to my area? Or where are you going to be next? Great questions, and I've made it really easy to find out the answer. I've created a link on the SA Matters homepage that is a blue box on the right side labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. Just click on that. And if you're interested in hosting a program and you want to save some money, consider hosting a companion program. Companion programs are programs I do on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm going to be somewhere within a few hours of your department and you want to host a program, just reach out and contact me, and we'll make it really easy, I promise, and you'll save some money. Today's episode is part 2 of a 3-part interview with Chesterfield County Battalion Chief Joy Nicely and Captain Rick Grazel. If you missed part 1, you may want to swing back and give it a listen or a watch first before you go and watch or listen to this Part 2. In the early morning hours of January 17, 2016, Chesterfield County Fire EMS responded to a residential dwelling fire on Wicklow Lane that would result in 5 civilian fatalities, including 2 children. This 3-part interview chronicles the events, the situational awareness challenges that they faced, and lessons learned from the first-in captain and the first-in battalion chief. Okay, let's jump into our feature segment, Part 2 of my interview with Battalion Chief Joy Nicely and Captain Rick Grazel. We pick up the conversation where Rick is talking about the challenges that he is experiencing in his efforts to complete a 360-degree size-up.
And matter of fact, as I'm trying to do my on-scene report, one of the family members actually pulled the door open to my fire engine and started yelling in the fire engine that there was children trapped upstairs. So it starts off really bad. So as I step out of the engine, trying to process the information of this man screaming at me that there's children trapped in the house, and I had to harness him in and just ask him where. He says, upstairs.
That was the first we'd heard of the children.
That was the first that I had heard of children being trapped in this house. So now we went from one senior person in a possible house fire that's handicapped to now a senior person and 2 children trapped upstairs. And then when you look at the house, the entire second floor of the house, the roof is heavily, heavily involved in fire. And we're sitting there with, an officer and 3 firefighters and not a whole lot of help. So I was really glad to hear our second engine coming up right behind us. So as I told my jump seat firefighter to deploy a blitz fire hand line as this family member is yelling at me, and I had to tell him, okay, they don't like the answer, okay, as I need to go. I have to go start taking a lap. I have to start assessing what is going on and start directing companies where to go. I then get interrupted during the lap by a police officer yelling that there's kids trapped in the house. Had to tell him, okay, as I try and start walking towards the Alpha Bravo corner. There is where the vehicle fire is, and the entire garage is fully involved in fire. And as I'm walking by the car, one of the tires explode on the car, which we all know how loud and violent that can be. Yeah. That should be a little bit. And then as I walk by the garage that's heavily involved in fire, something inside of the garage exploded. I'm guessing I don't know if it's a propane cylinder or a gas tank, but it exploded so loudly and so violently that it actually shook the ground underneath of me as I'm walking by it, and fire comes out of the garage and impinges on. So at this point, I'm still trying to continue taking a lap process and what's going on. And you get to the back side of the house, which will show you a picture. I don't know, you want to pull it up now of how tall this house was on the Charlie side?
Sure.
It shows the left side picture shows the alpha side. That's just a picture that's taken off like Google Maps or something like that. Mm-hmm. And obviously the fire picture that shows how tall, but it still doesn't give you a good frame of reference. If you're actually looking from the ground level up, it appears to be 25 to 30 feet up to the second story window on the Charlie side of the house.
Oh yeah.
So that gives you a pretty good frame of reference as I'm looking up at fire everywhere. I know there's children trapped on the second floor, not including the basement. So from the backside, third floor from the backside. So at this point, I know there's more people running around screaming. And at this point, I know that with the ladder complement that's on my engine company, I have no way to be able to access the floor 2 where the children are reported to be trapped. So didn't know what bedroom, where exactly on either Alpha or Charlie side, but I knew that I did not have any ladder access on the front because of wheelchair ramps, and I had no ladder access on the Charlie side because of the length of ladders they were carried on my engine company. So as making the lap, I communicated that this was actually a 2-story with a basement on the Charlie side, so 3 stories, and that we had at this point a report of 2 children trapped upstairs and 1 elderly person trapped on the first floor.
Okay, leave this picture up just for a moment here, because you see, I assume that gray arrow is like about where the front door was.
Yes, sir. Alpha side.
And this person told the 911 dispatcher, you go in the front door and you turn right, and then there's down 2 doors, and that's the bedroom that I'm in.
I actually have a better picture for you because that's actually floor 2.
Oh, that's floor 2. Okay.
This is floor 1.
Okay.
So, I can't get my mouse to work for me. So where the first victims were, as you can see, where engine 24 ends up making entry back there. And there, if you want to explain the situation.
Actually, if you can go back to the alpha side, but as you talk, I know you like to discuss the situational awareness a lot.
Right.
As I'm making the lap, actually the actual front, the picture we used earlier.
Okay.
Wow, that's a big house.
Yes, it is. 3,400 square feet.
As I'm making this lap, trying to process all of this information that's coming in. There's people yelling. There's stuff exploding. There's fire everywhere. There's victims that I can't get to. And I read a lot of NIOSH reports to try and learn from what's killed some of our fellow firefighters. And what's just flashing through my head is if I don't get this right, we're going to kill firefighters on this one. Because everybody is coming 100%. Everybody is going to be pushing as hard as they can, especially when they hear children are trapped. That if I don't get this right, we're gonna kill some of our own. That's what was going through my mind as I'm trying to make this lap and process all the information that's going on and communicate what needs to happen, and just really trying to make this right and try to focus on people not screaming at me and then what the actual problem is and what we need to do about this problem. So, but the information the dispatcher told us while we were en route that the victim was 2 windows or 2 bedrooms, 2 rooms, windows to the right of the front door. As you see on the left side of the screen where it shows the opposite side of the house, you got a front door, and then you got a double set of windows that are at that alpha delta corner that look like the windows to a study, but that's the only set of windows on the alpha side, and it's not even a normal set of bedroom windows. So the information about where this gentleman is trapped at, it just doesn't add up to where he is. And he ended up being back in the Charlie Delta corner bedroom. When you listen to the call taker information later, he tried to tell her that he was down a hallway and so forth. But she did a very good job of relaying the best that she could of what he was telling her. It's just the information didn't jive with what we needed to do in order to find that subject.
She was asking him, what window are you if I look at the front of the house? He was telling her, if you come in my front door, I'm down this hallway.
I'm the second room to the right.
He was answering her a different question than what she was asking.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in time, after I finished my lap, the second engine company crew, they parked their unit at the hydrant to be able to make that connection, and the jump seat firefighter and the officer made their way down to the scene as I finished my lap. And my guys were initiating fire attack, and I told him, report of 2 children trapped on floor 2. See if you can make the rescue. Search and rescue floor 2. So they masked up and tried to make entry, and they couldn't even make it in the front door from the heat being so bad. So at this point is when Chief Nicely marked on scene, and I'll let her tell you what she had going on.
As I pulled up, I could see the rookie on engine 2 with his nozzle flowing water in the front door, and he began to go down on one knee and make entry. And that's what I see as I make a left into the driveway across the street. And my initial thoughts when I looked up at how much fire was coming through the roof and how hard this house was burning is that there's nobody alive. If somebody's in there, in my experience, they are dead. Because it literally was 2/3 of this 3,400 square foot house through the roof. I've been to plenty of house fires before, and it was significantly well involved. So that was my thought, and I knew that I had to take command from him quickly. Generally, I'd make a full 360 before I take command, but as I grabbed my command vest and my helmet and my radio and came across the ditch, I began to call him on the radio to go ahead and take command from him as I was making my lap, so that he could focus on his task, because I knew he had his hands full.
Rick, were you able to complete your 360? I know you said you had a lot of interruptions on the way.
Yes, sir. I was able to complete it after having to tell probably 6 different people, okay, and having to take that information and keep moving on. And every one of them didn't really like that I just kept walking, but you have a job to do. You have to focus on what you have to do in order to communicate what needs to happen.
Yeah. Now, Joy, you had a video of the incident. How far into your being there was this video that you're going to show me? Was this like early on to your arrival?
This is about 8 minutes in because truck 9 is there. And Rick right now is performing in this video the vent enter isolate search, and engine 2 is in the front door with a 188 line. Our 1.88 is what our pre-connect, most people call it an 1 3/4, but we're using a 1.88 now. So engine company 2 is in through the front door. They are at the base of the stairs trying to make the stairs and get upstairs to the children. And Rick is in that back room on the Charlie Delta corner searching that while this video is being taped or being filmed. And at this point, I've taken command. I've made that 360, and I do not have all the resources on scene yet to perform fire extinguishment and search and rescue on this building. All I'm able to do at this point is hold the fire where it's at while Rick and his company get in there and try to make some grabs and get back out. At this point, I know that I'm going to have to put the truck up and knock the bulk of this fire out, but it's not there. It had just arrived on scene. You'll actually hear them putting their outriggers out. We've got to knock it down before we're going to be able to do a whole lot. We just don't have personnel and equipment there to do it yet.
So
but when I play this video, I'm sorry, go ahead.
At the point of this video, what or who is there? I know engine 24 is there, engine 2 is there, truck 9 has just arrived and they're putting their riggers out.
And you can actually, if you look to the left, see a blitz monitor flowing. Engine 20 has got on scene and pulled a blitz monitor to the Bravo side, and they are stretching a hand line around to the back of the house onto the Charlie side to support that vent enter isolate search operation, because flames are actually impinging on these guys on the back as they try to make entry into that window.
I think that's another good point that got skipped a little bit too. But when I communicated to the jump seat firefighter riding behind me to deploy the blitz fire because of the amount of volume, while this gentleman, the family member, I don't want to seem like he's just some jerk. It was, his family was dying and he knew it. So, but either I didn't communicate it well or my jump seat firefighter didn't hear it well, but he ended up deploying a 1.88 hand line rather than the blitz fire. So I was not happy and surprised when I came back around the house and saw that there was just a hand line on this volume of fire. But the communication didn't happen between he and I as well as it should have for whatever reason. So that's one learning point right there that didn't happen, that would have, I don't know whether it made a difference or not, but I know there was way more fire than a 1.88 hand line was going to be able to handle. It was literally, after we had 3 hand lines flowing, the fire still, it didn't affect it one bit. So anyways.
And we've actually, before I show the video, jumped ahead as far as some things that had happened and some information that had been communicated. On Rick's lap, he had run into a police officer who had pointed out a window. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, well, I didn't get that information until we had come back around front and we're trying to help Engine 2 make entry to be able to get to the kids, and it was obvious it was not going to happen. At this point is when a police officer came running to me and said, we can hear a man yelling at a window at the back side of the house. We can hear a man yelling. So at that point is when I communicated to Chief Nicely that we were going to go to that side to try and attempt a VEIS. We were not making any headway trying to make the front door, so we were going to try and rescue anybody that we possibly could. So I wanted to communicate to her what I wanted to do so that she could okay that.
All this that we've talked about so far has all happened within the first 5 minutes of us getting on scene. So we've gone from one person trapped to kids upstairs trapped to I don't think nobody's alive in this house, and we've got somebody at a back window screaming. So at that point, we had a face-to-face in the Charlie side, in the Delta side yard of that he's going to do this vent enter search, which I switched from I didn't think anybody was alive in here, but if we can see him, this is why we're here. This is what we do. We're going to go get him. Or Rick's company is going to go get him. And I was under the same things going through my head at that point that he was when he made his initial lap of this is some serious stuff. We are definitely in a lot of danger here. And I needed to make sure that he and I were on the same page, that he was where I was, understanding what he was getting ready to literally dive headfirst into. And as he turned around to go around the back of the house, I yelled at him to stop. And when he turned around, I never did ask you this, but I'm pretty sure he thought that I was going to rescind that order and change my mind, because he yelled back at me kind of like, what? Like I was going to stop him. And I just had to have a quick eye contact with him and needed him to reassure me that we were on the same page. And he definitely was. He was very, very much in the moment and aware of what was going on. And he had his head screwed on straight, which I don't know why I ever doubted it. But he understood what they were getting ready to go do.
I think my exact words were, I got it.
I got it. And yeah, he said, I got it. I just looked at him, and it wasn't a long conversation. I just looked at him and said, Rick, and I looked up at the house, and he says, I know, I got it. And he was that calm about it. And they went on to do what they had to do.
Okay. So as we get ready to watch the video, in the upper right-hand corner of your keynote, there's a kind of a button there that's grayed out that says Format. You see that? On the keynote. Yeah, yes. Click that. There you go. Okay. That just gets that little maintenance bar off there.
Okay. So this is me and a police officer over here in the corner. Rick's in there doing event enter search, and I'm in the process of trying to call him. Actually, I've just gotten communication from him, and he has reported to me that he's inside doing a search, and he has high heat and low visibility. And I am trying to call Engine 2 at this point and confirm their location and their progress. When this police officer approaches me, you'll see me back away from him quickly, and I'm talking on my radio, and you'll actually see him grab hold of me to tell me what I already know, which is that there are kids upstairs. And again, he wasn't liking the answer of, okay, I know. So the police officers on scene were feeling a little helpless, I think, and wanting to get in there and make some rescues themselves, but you'll see exactly the fire conditions. Oh, I lied to you. But this area here is the garage. And you can see the fire shooting up the back of the house, and that's where Rick is operating in that window.
Did you go in the second story window, Rick, or the first story?
It's floor 1, but from the Charlie side, it's the second floor above the basement.
Yeah, you had to go up a ladder.
Well, we end up going off the deck, but we'll show you the picture in a minute.
Okay.
The truck company that's going around there now sets the ladders for them on the Charlie side. And at this point, there's a sunroom back there on the deck that they enter that window on. And the windows on that sunroom fail after they go in that bedroom, which cuts off their egress and makes fire conditions from the Alpha side get drastically worse. That's Rick right there telling me he's bringing a victim down the ladder on the Charlie side. I don't know if you heard that.
No, I couldn't hear. It was a little garbly. So was the victim the paraplegic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, can you go to the picture of that Charlie Delta corner to give them a reference of that location we had to do the VIS? Okay, you'll see this is a Charlie Delta corner. When the information the police officer gave me made me believe that there was a person coming that was hanging out of the window at the basement level. And we got back there because we did not carry a ladder back there with us at that point. And they said, no, that window up there. So either we had to go back to the engine to get ladders, or we had to try and make access off of that deck. I elected to make an access off that deck. Now, do you see the sunroom she was talking about that's sticking off?
Mm-hmm.
That did not look like it at that point. None of those windows had failed. So we made access in a window right here at this corner as the deck meets up to that room. It kind of was an angled access off of the deck that kind of partially had us not really in the safest position to make this access, but it was the best that we had to do. So we took that window out. Immediately after we took that window out, there was a significant amount of smoke that came out of that room. We couldn't hear anything. Actually, the first firefighter that I tried to send through the window got hung up in the blinds and actually ended up almost falling between the deck and the house down to the ground level. We were able to pull him back on the deck, and then I went through the window, and the second jump seat firefighter came through the window with me. At that point, that's where the training aspect comes back to it. Being at the Charlie Delta corner and doing a VEIS, I knew, one of the principles of it is the first thing you need to do is find a door and make sure the door is shut because we just made a vent opening in this window. So I knew that if I did a right-hand search, that I would have a better chance of finding that bedroom door because I was on the Charlie Delta corner of the home. So luckily made that happen pretty quickly, even though there was a large amount of stuff in the room, including hospital beds and wheelchairs and I'm not sure whatever else. But I was able to find the bedroom door and shut it, and immediately coming back to the window where my firefighter was making entry, and very quickly located the victim in a bed in the center of the room, and started working on trying to get him back to the window. It's funny, anybody's been in the fire service and been on a fire engine or truck company that's working inside. You feel like you've been working for about 30 seconds. Meanwhile, the BC outside feels like that she's been watching us work inside of this house for 10 minutes. So she's calling me on the radio looking for an update, and I'm going, damn it, I'm trying to work. So but was able to communicate back that we were doing the search, and then we ended up finding them. In the meantime, I have one jump seat firefighter on this deck at the window that's holding that window for us as an egress point while the two of us are doing this search and rescue. At that point, the windows on that sunroom behind him failed, and significant amount of fire started coming out of those windows to the point where he had to bail off of that, and our egress point was completely cut off, at the exception of just jumping out the window to ground level. So that was my 25-year guy that started calling for a ladder really quickly to make sure that we had an egress point and also a way to be able to take that victim down. That's where it was sure nice to have a 25-year guy that knew what was going on in that jump seat with me. So we were able to get a ladder to that backside, and also an engine company repositioned a hand line. It was flowing water into those windows to try and protect that egress for us while we completed that vent and isolate search. So we were able to complete that, remove him from the building. At that point, he was unresponsive, apneic pulseless. Transferred. Matter of fact, the guy that helped us with the ladder and get him out, my jump seat guy, he ended up having to go with the volunteers, who was a BLS unit, to provide patient care for him. I believe they ended up getting the pulse back, but he ended up dying from his injuries from the fire.
Okay, let's come back off of the screen share so that we just get.
I have a. Got me now.
So yeah, we're back. Let's pause for just a moment. On my player page, the person who they show talking gets outlined in green, and for the point of this entire conversation, I've been the only, or at least as you started doing the screen share, I was the only one highlighted in green, and before that, it was highlighting you in green when you were talking. So here on the fly, I'm going to try to figure out why.
I got to go to the little boys' room. I'll be right back.
Okay. Why it is not doing the share of the screen, of your screen, of showing you talking. I'm not sure if that was something that maybe you had, a setting that you had touched, or I haven't changed any settings, but when you're looking at the screen, do you see both of us?
Yes, I'm in a small bubble above you.
Now you're back. Okay, now you're... Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is talk me through some of the things that you were thinking. I know when we were having our conversation on the phone before this, you were telling me about a whole lot of things that were going on in your mind and the things that you were thinking about related to situational awareness, and I want to capture some of that.
Right, and I've got a graphic too that we can play right after this that leads up to everything that Rick was just talking about and what I'm about to talk about as well. It's a short little video with some good stuff in it and some actual radio traffic.
Do you want to show it first or second?
I'd rather set it up and then.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm in the front yard. I don't have any command staff there to assist me yet, and I have more things going on, more problems than I have resources to mitigate those issues on scene. And I have so much input coming into me. There are people in the front yard, police officers, dispatches calling me, asking me about resources that are responding, giving me information about outside agencies such as Virginia Power that are coming, and it's just too much coming in. My brain, I realized that I cannot process it at that point. And actually, props to you. I saw your program here in Chesterfield in 2012, and that actually popped back into my mind, and I knew what was happening to me. I was actually able to go, I'm missing stuff at this point. And so I was able to take a step back and try to get my head wrapped around it and know what was happening to me. And until I got more resources on scene to take some of that burden off of me, to get the voices out of my head is what I call it, was I able to fully recover from that. But I think just the knowledge of knowing that it was happening to me helped me to try to keep these guys safe that night.
Yeah, there's something to be said about having a conscious awareness of the fact that your awareness is being impacted, and realizing that in the moment versus after the fact saying, geez, I didn't realize it was happening. I give you a lot of credit for in the moment of all that was happening to have that awareness of your awareness. And that term for awareness of awareness is called meta-awareness, that almost like step out of yourself, look at yourself, and assess your awareness. And it sounds like that was what you did, which is a really good best practice for situational awareness. So props to you on that.
That's how it felt.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily resolve the issue, but it certainly makes you realize in a very conscious way that you're being impacted.
Correct. Until the first command staff that got there, I sent them to the back to put eyes on what they were doing, which allowed me to be able to focus a little more. It took a little of that burden off of me. And then more command staff began to arrive, and I was able to actually get back to my vehicle and actually begin, like I'm supposed to do, begin to actually manage and not have to. I felt like I had to stand right there in that front yard and keep my eyes on it because it was so tenuous. We were right there on the knife's edge of if I was going to have to pull them out and we were going to have to let this thing go, or if we were going to be able to stay with it and continue to try to make those rescues while we held the fire off. So that's the decision point I was at. And realizing that I wasn't able to fully process everything that was coming in. At one point, I did grab a firefighter that did not have an assignment, and he comes up to me and says, "Boss lady, I don't have anything. What do you want me to do?" Which props to him, he didn't freelance. With everything that needed to be done, he came for an assignment. And I said, "You stand right here beside me. If I don't answer my radio, you let me know, and do not let anybody talk to me. Nobody gets close to me." And he did that. He absolutely did that. He didn't let police officers near me. He didn't let other firefighters near me. They had to go through him to get to me if they wanted to speak to me, because I needed to focus on what these guys were doing. So I got more help there.
That's solid. That is solid. I like that.
And he was that guy on scene that if you knew him around the fire station, he was the one that wasn't going to be afraid to tell you no or tell you what he thinks. So it just was a good luck that he showed up. And he was that guy that was going to be able to do that. I
never heard that part of the story.
Yeah, it was Anderson. So he actually stiffed arm a police officer for me and backed him away from me, which Chesterfield Police Department does not like that very much. But he understood at that point when he told him, "No, you can't talk to her right now."
Yeah, no police department likes that. That's not a Chesterfield thing. Joy, how much time do you think passed before you had other command support there with you, be it the tactical safety officer or another battalion? How far into this did you have to operate solo at the command level?
I don't know the exact time, but I would imagine it was more than 10 minutes, less than 15, which felt like forever. I can tell you that because everything for me was in slow motion. Like Rick said, he'd only been in there working for just a little bit, but I needed some more information. And standing in that front yard, when those windows on that sunroom failed, with the front door being open, the garage and the roof being gone on the Bravo side of the structure, a 20-mile-an-hour wind, those flames went 70 feet in the air. And I know he's inside, and I've got a crew in the front door. So watching things drastically change like that, I began to call him on the radio.
I've actually had a few firefighters that listened to it said, it's very easy to armchair quarterback to go, "Joy sure sounded excited on the radio." I stopped them and say, "You don't understand. She was looking at a house that was burning down, and after a matter of fact, I don't think I answered you the first 2 times you called me."
No, you didn't.
and I'm pretty sure what was going through her head was that Rick and his crew are dead. They've been burned up. These windows failed, and he's not answering me. and I've killed him, I'm sure is what was going through her head.
I can tell you that the tape, when you play it back, it's 46 seconds long from the first time I call him to where I hear him answer me. And we actually have some communication across the radio. And while I know he's okay now, in those 46 seconds where I'm pacing the ground in front of 3401 Wicklow Lane, Rick Grassel and Todd Long were dead. And I had killed them. And you can't change that. I've never said it with him sitting beside me. So, but what you hear on the radio is an emotional response. It absolutely is. And anybody who would think that you won't have an emotional response to killing a friend's a fool. So what I tell people is you need to know that may happen to you, and you need to be prepared to deal with that. And it took me a second, as I say, to get my stuff back together and switch gears, because immediately after the second time I called and he didn't answer, I began to go on foot to the Charlie side to get engine 20 in the window to go get him, because I knew I'd killed him. And I was afraid to key up, because what if he answers me? And he did. He finally answered. It was a awful conditions that he reported, but it was music to my ears. And when you've known somebody for so long, and you've played with their kids, and you've talked to their wife, and that all goes through your head, that you've killed them, and you just can't get that back. But
my job was a lot easier than hers.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I was just over there going, "Leave me alone, I'm working."
Leave me alone. Yeah.
Joy, I want to ask you a question. When you called him on the radio and he didn't answer, you were on the Alpha side of the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And he was on the Charlie side of the house, correct?
Correct.
Did you consider walking around to the Charlie side and just putting eyeballs on what they were doing to make sure they were okay? Did you do that, or did you consider doing that?
I began to go that way. Yes, I was heading in that direction when he answered me. I needed to be away from the things that were going on that were tactical. Just standing in the front yard alone is enough to draw you in and put all that visual and audio information into your head that's going to distract you from the bigger picture. And so I was purposefully staying away from where they were doing that. But when conditions got worse and he didn't answer me, you darn right I began to head in that direction. And he answered. Because like I said, it was only 46 seconds. Immediately after he answered me, I called engine 2 and asked engine 2, "Are you at the base of the stairs?" Because every now and then I could see, with the reflections of the emergency lights in the front yard, somebody's gear and somebody's flashlight. And the reason I'm asking them, are they at the stairs, is because in my head, if I lose this thing at this point and this thing comes down, I need to know exactly where they're at. So that's where I was in that moment, and it took me a second to recover from it. But I have that audio and some pretty good visual aid. You want me to play that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, I don't think I shared. I got to hit the share button.
It's bad when I have to tell you how to use a
computer. I know. Thank you, Rick. What would I do without him?
Yep, I got your screen up now.
So this begins at the point that I begin to call Rick.
Engine 24, CPR.
CPR for us is...
Say it again. Engine 24, CPR. Engine 24, CPR. Engine 2, you see the stairwell in front of you. Engine 2, copy, all right inside. Stairwell in front of us.
This is at the point I'm fighting that police officer off me.
Inaudible, say again.
That was the sunroom that failed.
We've got heavy fire on the first floor and the second floor. Come on, take it 24, look at it, and take them on moving off for our ladder. You're not talking about it, take them coming out, turn away for our ladder. Transformation 24. Go ahead. One adult male victim removed by a ground ladder started engine 24 down.
So I should have prefaced it beforehand. CPR for us is probably what other agencies would call a CAN report. It's conditions, progress, and resources. So what do you got? What'd you do about it? Did it help? And do you need help? So that's what I'm asking in that. So Rick, when you were inside, and did you realize at that point that Engine 2 was in there?
Oh, I knew Engine 2 was still inside fighting fire. I knew a general whereabouts that if there was no smoke, I could probably walk to them in about 30 feet.
Yeah.
But, it felt like we were a long ways apart at that point because there was a whole lot of heat, fire, and smoke in between us. And immediately after shutting that door, the conditions in the room I was in got much, much better. I thought I was in pretty good shape until we try and come out the window onto the deck and you see, all the windows had failed and our egress was cut off. You go, all right, wow, this could have turned worse.
Yeah.
Joy, what assignment did you give to Engine 2 in support of Rick's crew on the interior? What did that conversation sound like? What were they supposed to be doing for you?
Their initial assignment was to get to floor 2 and get to the children. And being unable to make that assignment, they were holding that fire right there at the base of the stairs in the main corridor of the house, in between the Bravo and the Delta sections of a rather large house in a big open foyer. So their assignment was just to stay right there and hold the fire in check and protect Engine 24's rescue.
Okay.
That's what they were doing, and they absolutely understood that if they could not complete that assignment, the trouble that Rick's crew would be in, and that we would be unable to accomplish that.
And what kind of conditions was Engine 2 reporting from the inside? I know I heard him say in the audio there that they had fire on the first and second floor. Describe what they were saying as far as heat, visibility. What was their water being effective? How was
the jump seat firefighter described flowing his nozzle up towards the ceiling and not feeling any water rain back down on him. He was in a constant flow with a 188, and he would go around the base of the stairs, fight fire on that side, and fire would come around the back side of that stairwell. And he'd go back and he'd fight fire on that side of the stairwell. They were reporting heavy fire conditions on floor 1 and floor 2. Like I said, it was an open foyer, so they could see the second floor, or they understood there was a second floor there. The captain on Engine 2 had tried to make the stairs several times with that first assignment, and was pushed back by the heat both times. Actually, that crew sustained some burns to their ears, neck, and face in that assignment. But the third time the captain went up the stairs, he was actually able to make it. They had put out enough of the fire that he could get to the top of the stairs, and that catwalk that connected the Charlie and Delta sides of that house on floor 2 had burnt through. It was gone. So there was enough fire up there to burn through the top of those stairs.
Wow. And what size hose line were they flowing in there?
They had a 188.
175 GPM standard flow.
Okay. And you had a hydrant, so you had adequate water supply.
And at that point in time, that was flowing on the interior. They had the blitz fire flowing into the garage on the exterior. They had a 2.5 flowing. I don't know. At this point, there's like 4 or 5 different hose lines that are putting water on this fire at different points, and the fire doesn't care. It's laughing.
Yeah, Engine 16 eventually gets there on the second alarm, and they're on the Delta side flowing water with a 2.5, and there's a 188 on the back of the house flowing water, and it's just not putting it out. There is too much BTUs for the GPM with the manpower we've got there. We're going to have to hit this thing with the ladder truck with the master stream from the top. It's such a large house, and the bulk of fire is coming across that roof line of this custom home. So it's all cut up, lots of void spaces in the top of this thing, and it's just coming across it.
Now, Joy, at this point, are you still under the impression that you have 2 children trapped on the second floor?
Yes, very much aware of it at this point, and understanding that we don't even have a ladder on scene at this point until Truck 9 shows up to be able to reach them. Because it is the second floor, but it is the 3rd story on the back of the house, and our engine companies do not carry ladders that can reach that high. We have to wait for the truck to get there, and the truck needs to support, when they get there, engine 24's operation, and they also need to be able to begin to set up for that master stream. So like I said, there's just not enough manpower on scene to accomplish all the missions that we have at this point. Engine 9 shows up, the working incident engine, that additional engine that I had requested, and Rick marked it a working incident, so definitely got them on the call. They show up and take a 35-foot ladder off of the truck to the Charlie side and begin to set that to that 3rd story, 2nd floor window back there. But before we do that, we hear a low air alarm going off. At this time, the shift commander is on scene, and I've sent him to the Charlie side to put a command presence back there and some eyes on that, what's going on back there for me. And he hears this low air alarm. And it's the window that Rick and his crew has just come out of with the first victim. So he sends Truck 9 up that ladder and into that room after he confers with me to look for that low air alarm. And at that point, Truck 9 enters the hallway just outside the bedroom and bumps into Captain Smith on engine 2. As he locates, when he realizes he can't make the floor to get to those children, he begins to do a primary on floor 1 while his firefighter flows the nozzle. And he finds the patriarch of the family, Mr. Hudson's wife, just outside of the bedroom in that small hallway. And so Truck 9 comes out of the bedroom and bumps into Captain Smith just as he begins to drag her towards the front door.
We didn't even know she was even in the house.
Yeah. That was the first that I had heard from the family members outside, that she was in there. As I'm trying to interview the family members outside and try to find out how many people, I needed to know 3 things. How many people live here? How many people were here tonight? And how many people have you accounted for outside of this structure tonight? And they were understandably so distraught that they could not answer my questions. The mother of the children that were in the house, I tried to talk to her. She just couldn't do it. She was on her hands and knees in the middle of the street holding on to her one surviving child, and she just could not talk to me. The grandson had disappeared, and I could not find him, and there just weren't any reliable witnesses, anybody who had it together enough, understandably, to help us out. And so I had no idea she was even in there. I still thought that I was looking for the one that they had already pulled out, and these 2 children.
Okay, that completes part 2 of my interview with Battalion Chief Joy Nicely and Captain Rick Grazel. I'd like to ask a favor of you, the listeners of this podcast show. The primary reason I launched this podcast was to give voice to people who've had significant incidents and experienced near-miss events, just like those that you're watching and listening to on this podcast and video segment. The stories that have been shared with me in these episodes have been nothing short of amazing and extremely educational. I'd like to get more of these lessons learned with a larger audience, and I need your help to do so. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss or a significant event on the job and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, please contact me by visiting the SA Matters website and clicking on the Contact Us tab on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your significant event or near miss could save someone else's life. That's really powerful. What a wonderful gift that would be. And if you'd like to share your experience, then please reach out to me. Okay, as I always do, I'd like to take a moment to thank the companies, organizations, and agencies that have hosted some great training for their members and employees on situational awareness. I do this to show my appreciation to those who put forth the time and the effort to advertise and fund great training experiences. Recent tour stops included Henrico County Fire Department in Virginia, BX Swan Lake Fire Department in Alberta, Penticton Fire Department in Alberta, St. Louis Area Fire Department in Michigan, Portage Fire Department in Michigan, Swissvale Fire Department in Pennsylvania, Evans Fire Department in Colorado, and where I am now at the Summit Fire Authority in Frisco, Colorado. If you want to join me in an upcoming tour event, February 12th to 15th, I'll be in Missouri City, Texas. February 20th, Orlando, Florida. February 21 and 22 in Pipestem, West Virginia. February 27th in Austin, Texas. March 12 in Towson, Maryland. March 14 to 18 in Fort McMurray, Alberta. And April 2 and 3 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. If you want to see all the locations of all the upcoming tour stops, just head over to the SA Matters website and click on that blue box that I mentioned earlier on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. Just remember that the events are always changing, the schedule is always being updated, so check back often. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop event, I'm actively booking programs now for the second half of 2018 and all of 2019. 2018 is filling fast. There's over 70 programs already scheduled for 2018, which means I'm going to start pushing programs into 2019, which means it's going to fill up fast too. So if you think your department or your company or your agency or association or regional conference or state conference or national conference might want to host a program, just contact me through the SA Matters website by clicking the Contact Us tab, and we'll get something set up for you. I have some great staff, and they'll make the entire process really easy for you, I promise. The last time I was delivering programs in Southwest Minnesota, I had a chance to stop by and visit the sponsor of this podcast, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire is a fire truck manufacturing company that makes amazing all-poly-bodied fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. If you haven't checked them out yet, you really need to. Just visit midwestfire.com. That's midwestfire.com. Anyhow, while I was there, I had a chance to sit down and talk to some of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Let's listen in to learn what happens after the sale and the process for building a Midwest Fire truck. All right, I've heard about the No Dealer Network. I've heard about how to get in contact with Midwest Fire. I've heard about the process of speccing a truck, and that's all good. What happens after the sale?
Currently, after the sale, everything gets turned over to myself as project manager. I will then lead you through the build process. If you call in, have questions on your truck, want to make changes to your truck, want updates on your truck, that will all filter through me then rather than the salesman at that time. We take pride in everything we do here. You've heard that many times. But what we want to focus on is making this the best experience we can for the fire department. It's not always easy to get a hold of your salesman, whether he's traveling or on the road or at shows where I'm in-house full-time. Have 100% control with the project manager as well as manufacturing manager of your truck going through the process.
So somebody calls you and they have a question, or they're saying, can we make this change or whatever. You literally just walk down the hall, out the door, and you're on the manufacturing floor talking with engineering or with the people who are actually building their truck, and you can do kind of real-time problem solving or adjusting on the specification?
Yep. What we do then, if there is changes to the truck, obviously there'd be a change order involved, but the response time is a lot quicker. Most of the departments we work with have a meeting once a month, the volunteer fire departments. So if they call in, have a meeting the next night, we're able to get an answer to them, a response to them right away, so we're not holding up the project while it's in production.
Super. Well, there you have it, folks. That's what differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors. So check them out at midwestfire.com. Thank you, Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison, and all of your amazing staff for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I truly appreciate your support of my mission. If you want to get connected with me and others who are part of the SA Matters community of learners, There are several ways to do it. There are over 50,000 members connected here through the newsletter, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So you could swing by the Facebook page. You could get connected with me on Twitter. You could get connected with me by searching Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. Oh, it's at Rich Gasaway on Twitter, by the way. So if you want to join the newsletter, it's absolutely free, Free, free. The newsletter contains featured content from the blog and the podcasts, and occasionally there's some discounts exclusively for the newsletter members. The newsletter is truly the way for us to stay connected if you want to stay connected with me. There's two ways to join. If you have a smartphone, very easy. Just get out your smartphone and text 22828. And in the text line, put SA Matters, letter S, letter A, word matters, all together, one word. Text SA Matters to 22828. Be sure to watch your spell checker because sometimes spell checkers want to change SA Matters to something else. If you do it right, you're going to get a message to enter your email address. This will sign you up for the newsletter. And then you'll get an email message about getting access to program handouts that I do. You can just consider that a bonus for signing up for the newsletter. Now, what if you don't have a phone with texting capability? You can swing by the SAMatters.com website and click on the red box on the right side of the homepage labeled Free Membership. And I've told you how to get connected with me in other forms of social media. Finally, if you know a company who might want to advertise their product or service on this podcast, just have them contact me. This show has enjoyed over 260,000 downloads through the podcast. And now that we're doing video, we'll be able to add the video content too. So this might be a good way to advertise your message to the listeners and viewers of this show. Well, that's it. Episode 199 is complete. Thank you to my guest, Battalion Chief Joy Nicely, and Captain Rick Grazel from Chesterfield County Fire Department. Thank you to the awesome podcast sponsor that I have, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies and agencies and organizations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the hosts of the new virtual training events that we're doing. Thank you to the more than 1,500 students who have been enrolled in the Situational Awareness Matters online academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners of this podcast show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.